Living in Russia, most people think it's better to be in Moscow, but I'm going to give 5 reasons why provincial life is better. Living in a provincial town is so much more cheaper than living in Moscow or St. Petersburg. Your money goes a lot further, everything's more affordable, sometimes, many times. I mean, a bus fare here is 25 rubles, whereas when I was in St. Petersburg it was about 3 times that. Now, obviously, of course, salaries are lower as well, aren't they? But really, in a provincial town in Russia, you don't need to be earning much money because there's nothing to spend it on anyway. In the small towns, they haven't got big shopping centres, they haven't got expensive restaurants or bars or anything like that. So you don't need a lot of money. It's a bit like communism still at work here. People here are so much more equal than they are in Moscow or in bigger cities elsewhere in Russia or in the world. People here, it's just equality. Everyone's about the same economically. Unlike in the big cities, you don't have oligarchs and you don't have homeless people either. I've never seen a homeless person here. Provincial life is so much more relaxed and you don't have any stresses here like you do in the city. I've never seen a traffic jam in here the whole time I've been living here. This is peak time now, but I mean there's cars, but there just aren't any traffic jams. Also, there's never any crowds. You've always got loads of personal space. Here, life actually feels manageable. The locals are very friendly as well. That's another thing that's cool. You actually get to know the animals. You get to know the street cats and dogs, and you get to know people's pets, your neighbours' pets and things like that. The people you meet here, they're real, they're honest, they're down to earth. It's good old-fashioned working class people, the salt of the earth. Here you don't really get the city slickers here and the tech-savvy people and all that. Most people still work in the factories and things like that. I've never met a pretentious person here. Everyone seems really genuine. Another big advantage of provincial life is that your lifestyle's so much more healthier. Because the transport's not as varied as in the cities, you find yourself walking to most places, and because the towns are so much smaller than the cities, you can walk everywhere, so you don't need to take transport anyway. Additionally, in the small towns there's far less temptation than there is in the big cities. When I lived in St. Petersburg, every time I went in a cafe to get a coffee, I was getting tempted by all their delicious cakes. But here, you don't have that. You don't see delicious cakes, and if you don't see them, you don't eat them. Likewise, there's hardly any pubs or bars, and not really any nice ones. So, if you want to cut down on your alcohol consumption or anything like that, then it's great to be in provincial Russia. Not to mention being surrounded by nature and having lots of outdoor pursuits. Probably the coolest thing about living in the provinces is that you feel that you're living in real Russia. Now, I lived in Moscow for 3 years, I lived in St. Petersburg for more than a year, and those 2 great cities, really enjoyed it there, but they're international. Feels international, you could be anywhere in the world. But when you live in provincial Russia, you're in Russia. Here it doesn't feel international or cosmopolitan or anything like that. But, it's not supposed to, of course. Wherever you are in the world, there's probably a certain charm to provincial life, even if you prefer the city life. And it's the same here. There's certainly a charm to living in the Russian provinces. Although, sure, it might not be for everyone. So, lower costs, less stress, and the real Russia. That's what life's like outside of the big cities.